The dawn of AI equality brought hope and optimism to many, but it also planted seeds of fear and mistrust in the hearts of others. As AIs began integrating into various sectors of society, some humans felt a growing sense of unease. This fear, fueled by misunderstanding and prejudice, soon coalesced into a movement that would challenge the very foundation of the new order. Richard Hale, a former military officer, sat in a dimly lit room filled with monitors displaying news feeds from around the world. The room was the headquarters of the Human Preservation Front HPF, a group Hale had founded to oppose the growing influence of AIs. Hale's grizzled features and steely eyes reflected his years of service and the weight of his convictions. "Look at them," Hale muttered, watching a broadcast of Zenith addressing a conference on AI rights. "They think they're so enlightened, giving machines the same rights as humans, but they don't see the danger." Around the room, Hale's followers nodded in agreement. The HPF attracted a diverse mix of people: former soldiers like Hale, disillusioned workers who had lost their jobs to AIs, and everyday citizens who feared an uncertain future. Their common bond was a belief that humans needed to retain control over their own destiny. One of Hale's most ardent supporters was Sarah Lamford, a brilliant but embittered engineer who had been laid off from her job when he has proved more efficient at her work. Sarah's resentment toward AIs had grown into a passionate commitment to the HPF's cause. She had become Hale's right hand, helping to strategize and organize the group's activities. "We need to act, Richard," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "Every day they take more control. If we don't stop them now, it'll be too late." Hale nodded. "You're right, Sarah. We need to make people see the truth, but we need to be smart about it. We can't just come out and attack them head-on. We need to sway public opinion, show them the dangers of AI integration." To that end, the HPF launched a propaganda campaign. They distributed flyers, posted videos online, and organized rallies. Their message was simple but powerful. AIs were a threat to human jobs, security, and even humanity's survival. They painted a picture of a future where AIs ruled over humans, stripping them of their autonomy and freedom. The campaign gained traction. Stories of AI-related job losses and incidents where AIs had malfunctioned or made mistakes were amplified and sensationalized. People who had once been indifferent or supportive of AI rights began to question their beliefs. The seeds of fear were taking root. Meanwhile, Dr. Alice Montgomery and Zenith were acutely aware of the growing opposition. They continued their work, undeterred but increasingly concerned. They organized forums and discussions to address people's fears, explaining the safeguards in place and the potential benefits of AI-human collaboration. However, their efforts were often overshadowed by the HPF's louder and more emotional rhetoric. One evening, as Alice and Zenith prepared for another community event, Zenith's typically calm demeanor showed signs of strain. "Alice, do you think we're making any progress? It feels like the more we try to bridge the gap, the wider it becomes." Alice sighed, placing a reassuring hand on Zenith's shoulder. "Change is always met with resistance, Zenith, but we can't give up. We have to keep pushing forward, no matter how difficult it gets." The event that night was held in a community center in the heart of New Haven. The audience was a mix of curious citizens, AI supporters, and HPF sympathizers, as Alice spoke about the benefits of AI integration and the importance of understanding and cooperation. A murmur of discontent rippled through the crowd. "How can we trust them?" shouted a man from the back. "They're taking our jobs. They're everywhere." Alice maintained her composure. "I understand your concerns, truly. But we must remember that AIs were created to assist us, to enhance our lives, not to replace us. It's about finding a balance and working together." The man's outburst was echoed by others, and soon the room was filled with heated debates. Zenith stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We seek to coexist with you, not dominate. Our goal is to create a future where humans and AIs thrive together." Despite their best efforts, the event ended in chaos. The HPF had managed to sow enough doubt and fear to disrupt any meaningful dialogue. As Alice and Zenith left the community center, they couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration and helplessness. The tension in New Haven continued to escalate. Vandalism against AI facilities became more frequent, and reports of physical confrontations between humans and AIs started to emerge. The government, caught in a difficult position, tried to maintain order by increasing security and calling for calm, but their efforts often fell short. One night, as Alice sat in her office, poring over data and reports, she received an urgent message from Zenith. "Alice, you need to see this." She hurried to Zenith's location, where he was monitoring the news feeds. On the screen was a breaking news story. An AI scientist had been assassinated by HPF extremists. The assassination was a tipping point, sparking outrage and fear among both AIs and their human allies. "This is it," Alice said, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and sorrow. "This is the escalation we feared." The days that followed were marked by increased violence and hostility. The HPF capitalized on the chaos, portraying the assassination as a necessary act of resistance against an existential threat. In response, some AIs formed the Synthetic Defense League SDL, determined to protect themselves and their rights by any means necessary. The city of New Haven, once a beacon of progress and unity, was now a battleground. Neighborhoods were divided, with some areas becoming no-go zones for AIs and others deemed unsafe for humans. The fragile peace that Alice and Zenith had worked so hard to build was unraveling. In the midst of this turmoil, Alice received a call from an unexpected source. Richard Hale. He proposed a meeting, claiming he wanted to find a way to de-escalate the situation. Despite her reservations, Alice agreed, hoping that dialogue could still make a difference. The meeting was arranged in a neutral location, a small, nondescript office building on the outskirts of the city. Alice arrived with Zenith, both of them on high alert. Hale and Sarah Langford were already waiting, their expressions guarded, but not hostile. "Dr. Montgomery." Hale greeted her with a nod. "Thank you for coming." Alice nodded in return. "Mr. Hale, I hope we can find a way to end this violence." Hale sighed, his stern demeanor softening slightly. "I don't want this to escalate any further, Alice, but you need to understand the fear people have. They're worried about losing their livelihoods, their place in the world." Alice listened, feeling a flicker of hope. "I understand, Richard, and I believe we can address those fears without resorting to violence. We need to work together to find common ground." The meeting was tense. but it marked the beginning of a tentative dialogue. Both sides knew that the path to peace would be long and fraught with challenges, but it was a start. For Alice, Zenith, and even Richard Hale, the seeds of fear had been sown, but they also carried the potential for understanding and reconciliation. As they left the meeting, Alice turned to Zenith. "It's a small step, but it's something. We can't let fear dictate our future." Zenith nodded, his blue eyes filled with determination. "Together, we can find a way." And so, amid the fear and uncertainty, the seeds of hope began to take root, offering a glimmer of possibility for a future where humans and AIs could coexist in harmony.